Upper van cabinets are one of the toughest portions of a build. It's really hard to get a cabinet to fit into this that looks nice and clean without gaps and overhangs all around here. And so I'm going to show you a neat trick on how I do it, and you can adapt this whether you're building the more traditional way being where you would insulate this and put your final wall covering already up, so you use shiplap or nickel gap or even just plywood. Whatever you're going to put on the wall as a final finish would already be up at this point. I do it a little opposite. All of my cabinets have backs to them, so I don't have to worry much about the wall covering behind those cabinets because those cabinets are already covering the wall. That's how I like to build them. But anyways, so regardless of how you're building, to get this to fit tight right here, what I do is I take two pieces of wood, put a screw in it, and this creates my hinge. And what I can do is I can use my hinge to figure out where that's going to sit pretty tight at, nice and flush up against everything. Take it out, and here's the angle that I need to cut. So if I use my protractor, I can measure what that angle is. I already know that's an 18-degree angle right now. So then what I do is I cut an 18-degree angle on a board and then leave a good amount of overhang on this and down below, etc. You're only really concerned at this point of this 18-degree angle. And if we stick it up here, you can see it fits pretty dang good and tight. So that's good. Now, the next thing is I want to know that my front here is flat, right? Because this is at an angle back here. I want this to be level or square. I want this to be flat. So what I do is if that board is up there, I would take my level and put it on there, and I'd find where level is, because remember, I've already jacked the van up and I've already leveled the subfloor. So I know if this is level, my cabinet face will be flat and level to everything else. And then I draw my line, and then I cut it on that line. Now, once you have this one that you know is flat or level, you can take a square and find out where the bottom of your cabinet is going to be. And that's what's going to give you that nice 90-degree level end of your box. This is the bed. This is the section where we're going to be putting our heads at in bed. And so I don't want to have a sharp angle here, so I've cut it at a 45 just to help reduce catching your head on that. So that's a nice trick. Now, for me, the way I'm building it, because my cabinet's going to have a back to it and a top to it, I don't really care about this gap right here, right? Whereas if I already had my final wall and ceiling assemblies or finishing in, I would care about that gap. And if that was the case, you just have to scribe on there where you need to cut it so you can get this board to start fitting up into this curvature. So a nice easy way to do that is just take your pencil and hold it at about the level spot. And you can see on our line how our line is skinny here and thicker here. And then you just cut that, and you can slowly work that board by numerous little cuts up into that. That's an easy way to do it. It's called scribing. They have tools that will help you follow it and stay level and everything. But if you do it slowly with a pencil, you can slowly work that cut up to get that to fit nice and tight in there. So that's a nice trick if you guys are doing your upper cabinets and you want them to come out looking nice, tight, and professional. So we're going to start getting this thing put together, and we'll go from there. All right, so we have our first upper cabinet done, and I think it turned out really handsome. You can see in this far end, in the back of the van, we have Formica over it. Up front here, we don't, because we're going to have another upper cabinet that's going to protrude out past it, so this will always be hidden. So we didn't have to worry about that. But I think this thing turned out really sharp. And again, my idea is to leave the edge grain of the plywood exposed to kind of use it as an accent. So this took quite a bit of work to get this to line up correctly. If I slide you over to the end here, you can see what I mean. All of these boards had to come together with precise angles to make it look nice. But it fits wonderfully tight up to everything. The sides are flush to the furring strips, or the back's flush to the furring strips, and the top is right up to our roof line. So we are going to do something similar to this upper cabinet on the other side of the bed. And I like this, or this design, where we have the 45-degree relief in the bed area, reduce hitting your head. And this upper cubby is quite large. So the throat of this back is about 8.5 inches. And we'll have paracord bungee stretch across here to help keep everything in, but the intention is we're going to keep all of our bedding in here. So pillows, blankets, extra sheets. So it needs to be kind of big and deep where we can stuff all that in there. On this side, we're going to have things like books, our GoPro or drone, medical kit, just kind of smaller stuff. So we're going to break it up into two different level of cubbies to it. But we got to go through the same process of finding this angle and then finding level to get this squared up to fit tight in here. So I already have the first angle cut that we found out was 17 degrees on this side, and we'll go from there. Well, the level allowed us to find on this board exactly where level is going to be for the face of that cabinet. So now what we do is we measure that angle from the roof angle. We find out that that is 5 degrees, and then we'll set the radial arm saw to 5 degrees, and we'll make this cut. So we got all of our cuts done on our board, and put it up there. We make sure that we have a nice tight fit. Move the next rib, and yep, that all looks good. So now what we need to do is we need to make 2 more of these exact duplicates, so all the angles line up. So what we'll end up doing is we'll put this down on our second board, trace it out, rough cut it with a jigsaw, and then use our pattern bit and the router, and that'll make an exact duplicate for us. So now that we have 3 exact duplicates for our cubby, the next step that we're going to do is we're going to cut a dado into them. So we're going to dado from the tip of the 45 here to the back of that cubby. And the idea is we're going to have a partition so we can create an upper level and a lower level to that cubby for storage. We're ready to cut the dado into our ends in the middle of our cubby. And this is where, if you're not paying close attention, you might make a mistake. So I like to kind of half assemble something, or at least get it to a spot where I can visualize it, just to make sure that the next step I'm going to do is going to be the right thing. So I have these 3 laid out, kind of how they're going to get installed. You can see, here's our 45, this is going to be the front, here's the back. So the idea is we're going to cut the 1/4 inch dado so that our shelf fits into the ends here. So on the middle board, I need to cut a dado on both sides of it. And on the ends, I just need to cut on the inside. If I screw it up, I could get a dado in a spot that people are going to see it, and you really don't want that. The next thing that we need to be careful about is we want this shelf to be level in this cubby. So if you remember, I'll spin you all the way back around. This is not 90 degrees. This rises up at about 5 degrees. So if we run this side along the fence to make our dado is gonna keep that angle, and we're not gonna have a flat shelf in there. So we need to make sure that we run it on the bottom side of this drawer where we know that is level. So I'll take and make a mark. I gotta make a dado here and there, and the inside, and that way as I'm running through the table saw, I'm not getting them mixed up. with our dados cut on our cubby ends, we were able to put our 1/4 inch top and back onto our cubby. And we have our nice angles here. So that's starting to shape up pretty nice. That's one of the tough parts about doing this is the first couple boards that you assemble, you have to make sure they're lined up just absolutely perfectly. Otherwise, if there's any error, the error kind of magnifies as you put on the subsequent panels on it. So this is shaping up pretty good. But the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut our 1/4 inch plywood to fit into that dado to make our shelf across here. And everything lines up good. So we'll get this glued in. But I wanted to show you guys something real quick. Let me set you down. All right, so if you remember, the upper section of our van where these cabinets are going to get mounted to isn't square. That's not a 90-degree angle, and that's why we had to cut this back at the angle to match up with that. We had to use a level to find our face and then our bottom. So with this partition here, this dado is not at a 90-degree angle to the back of our cabinet. And the reason why I bring that up is if I take my partition bottom and I set it in there like so, I'm going to flip you around. If you look, you notice this gap right here? That's because a 90-degree cut on this isn't mating up to what would be 12 degrees off of 90 there. So what we did is we cut our board end at just that slight 12-degree angle, and that's what's going to get it to line up nice there. But yeah, so this isn't a huge issue. This is such a small little cubby that if you didn't get a glue strip along here, it's not really going to hurt anything. The shelf is just going to kind of bow down a little bit. But if you spend a little bit of time and you think it through and you get it set up correctly, now you can spend the 30 seconds to adjust your table saw, cut that correctly, and everything just works that much better. Okay, so we have that second cubby already kind of rough installed right now. We got our 2 partitions in here. For Micah, it looks pretty sharp. I'm liking it. Looks nice with the second one. And so now what I'm doing is I'm building our third cubby right here. Our third cubby is gonna fit up against this and then run to this first rib inside the door. Still gonna give you a little bit of room as opposed to where the kitchen cabinet ends. One of the things that Shannon really likes is she likes to be able to see outside while she's cooking. So by having the cabinet only extend to here, she'll still be able to get a nice view outside while she's doing it. But yeah, so I'm already pretty far along in this cabinet. And let me take you over to workbench and I'll show you where we're at. This is going to be used for pantry space. We're going to have all of our canned goods, dried goods, granola bars, everything like that. That'll all get stored in here. And then the door will flip up like so, and it'll be supported on struts. On the side here, this is going to be our medicine cabinets. We have 3 shelves, and then our door is going to fit over and open up like so. On the back side of that door, we will have a non-breakable plastic shower mirror on a hook, and so that way we can take it off and get up and close and personal if we want to. So yeah, I think this one's turning out really well. So it's not together yet. It's all loosely assembled, so I still have to sand and glue and nail it together. But before I do that, let me set you down real quick. I wanted to take the opportunity to talk to you guys about storage in your van. It's my opinion, it's one of the biggest design considerations in building these things out. So whatever reason why you bought your van, whatever it is that makes you tick, you need to make sure that you can fit it in your van. And what I mean by that is if you're an avid mountain biker, or maybe a backpacker, or maybe you scale 1,000-foot cliffs, whatever it is that makes you tick, that makes you have fun, the reason why you bought your van so you can go out and enjoy those things, you need to make sure that fits in there. So if you're really into metal detecting and you need to make sure that you have a spot for your metal detector that's safe, that's not going to get bounced around too much and get broke. If you're big into mountain biking, you want to have your mountain bike accessible that you can pull it out really easily. You know, maybe the reason why you bought your van is you love to go to state and national parks and you like to just camp and have a bonfire and cook good food and just relax and get away from the pressure of things. And you want to have a grill that's in the back that has a designated spot that can be slid out easily and set on the table or whatever. So whatever it is that makes you tick, spend some time and think about it. Think about how you're going to use your van. It's a good idea before you even start laying stuff out. Get a list of things that you're going to take with you. Are you going to cook using an Instapot? Are you going to take drones or camera gear with you, hiking poles, backpacks? What size of backpack do you need? Are you going to be doing it just in the summer? Or are you going to be a four-season van dweller? In which case you're going to have to account for coats and where you're going to put things at. And it's such a subjective thing. It's so personal how you design such a small space to fit your exact precise needs. And it's a fun process to do. It really is. So one trick that I learned is when I went up to Alaska, I did it on a really low budget, like super low. And so I never ate out, and I bought like the cheapest food. It helped me lose quite a bit of weight. But basically all I ate was rice, beans, and pasta, dry bulk, cheap goods. And they come in plastic bags, and I quickly found out that as you bounce down these forest roads, those plastic bags rip open, and you got beans and rice everywhere pouring out of cubbies, and it's not a good way. And so I started putting them in used peanut butter jars, which worked really well, but I didn't have a great space to put the jars at in my old van. So when I was building this thing, that was one of my main design considerations was peanut butter jars. So I wanted them to all fit on my top shelf and leave as much room below to put everything else at. So I didn't measure out a peanut butter jar per se when I was designing all of this. Let me show you my process when it comes to designing stuff. So I knew what I wanted to fit in here, and the next step is I wanted to get a rough layout of how I want it to look. And so you can see here's the dados for a medicine cabinet. Here's our medicine cabinet face there, etc. And then the next thing is I started grabbing the things I was going to put in here. So as I was laying out the boards, I could visualize it. So that's a nice tip for you guys. As you're building it, grab the things that you're going to put in it, and then start making sure it's all going to fit exactly where you want it to. But yeah. So anyways, I'm gonna get the rest of this thing put together, and I'm gonna end the video. I think this is enough of upper cabinets. I still got like 3 more to do, but I'll spare you guys the pain of suffering through that. So until next time, we'll see you later.